Hip circles done the wrong way, I've seen it a million times. Little tricky to do right, but boy, does it take your postpartum recovery up a whole new level. So let's use our core and not our spine so much when we're getting into hip circles. What are they good for? So many things. Pelvic floor activation, 10 times more than Kegling. Hip socket lubrication so that you're feeling mobility in your hips, a release in the SI joint, a painless lower back, a level pelvis, so much more core strength, coordination between the upper body and lower body, and let's just keep going, right? We can talk about what they do for you later, but I want to get down to how do we do these right, and what is the common mistakes of doing something very simple, but yet executing it less than effective, okay? I like to put this on my back to just show you as an illustration to keep the spine still and work the core, because many times when we get into this hand and knee position, you want joints stacked here, okay? Whether it's the knee and hip stacked joint or you want the arm joints stacked vertically. We're not out here, we're not way out here or in. We want them nice and protected. Also, I'm pushing my shoulder blades away from my ears. A lot of times we keep stress up in our neck, and when we're doing exercise, it happens even more because we're not focusing on that. So keep those shoulders away from the neck if you can. This is my little tester. So we put something on our back, and you don't have to do this. I'm just showing you as an illustration. I want my back as long and as flat as possible. So I'm going to use my core to pull in and lift my heart up and forward and keep my shoulders down. A lot of times we do the opposite. We let our shoulders go up and we drop our belly. And therefore our spine is working when we're doing our hip circles. Keep this tight, lift it up, and lengthen the spine by pushing those shoulders away from those ears. Lift your knee and rotate around in a circle. So I'm making a hip circle, but I'm starting with my knee. I'm focusing on my knee. I start small. I keep my core in tight, and you notice that that block isn't falling off. I see a lot of people, you know, super amazing models and fitness people, but they're doing it with their back. Want to keep the spine still. Also, this is an advanced move. This is when you get a little stronger. You're going to keep the stationary leg stacked in your joints as well. The temptation is to lean in, and it is way harder to keep that leg straight when you're in line with your arms and you're lifting this knee up, because all that weight goes into that knee and also carries over into more core work, more chest and upper back when I'm opening my fingers, turning them with the index finger frontwards, or maybe a little even more open, and I'm taking my elbow pits and I'm turning them forwards. So in other words, my rotator cuff isn't internally rotated. Do we do this enough during the day? Working, folding laundry, cooking. Do we do this at night? Sleeping, right? We want to open it when we're exercising, because a lot of people turn them in when they're doing something that they're focused on and they're not really concentrating on what is my posture in this position. How am I executing correct posture as I'm actually trying to recover, right? So elbow pits forward, opening that chest and shoulders, lifting the heart, and trying to keep the supporting knee as straight as possible as you circle around. It's going to want to come in, but that takes all the core work out of it. The harder I press with my palms, the more I'm going to feel it in my core. So the goal is flat back, not dipping and arching, using my core, circling around, lubricating my joints, lubricating that hip socket, 360 inside that pelvis socket. And I'm going the other way, and I'm keeping my shoulders away from my ears. And if I want to 10x it, I put a band around my knees. And then I lift with resistance. Start small at first, and then get bigger as you can keep that back still. Then I want to show you another fun bonus, because taking these joints in the pelvis. Let's say this is your pelvis socket. Here's the thigh bone, the very top of it, the ball, the femur head. We want to get that securely into the pelvis. So just lift the knees, shake them a little bit. I'm pushing my soles of the feet into the ceiling, and I'm picturing, imagery is everything, mind-body connection, here we go. We're picturing that femur head nice and secure into that socket, lowering, lowering, lowering. It really makes a difference. This will help with hip popping, hip snapping when you lower. We're trying to secure that, okay? Then we're gonna put our feet down. We're gonna slowly lift, nice and slow, squeeze the buns into a bridge. We're gonna find where the psoas rolls over the hip socket. Where is your hip socket, you may ask? That's a great question. We're going to find our ASIS, the little bony protrusion. We're going to run down it diagonally to the pubic bone. So we have two little bony protrusions here. Right in the middle of that is your hip socket, where the ball meets the socket. Hip socket, right there. So many people think it's in a different place. We're going to take our fingers, tenderly rub across that psoas bone as it goes over the hip socket and inserts into the lesser trochanter of your thigh bone. You're going to feel some tender spots. So you can either tap it, rub it, or even pound it if it's really tight and under a lot of pressure. So we've got that tenderized. It's so amazing. We're going to roll the spine down, taking a deep breath, articulating one vertebrae at a time. As I squeeze here, I'm pushing my spine down into the floor, one vertebrae at a time. That is so hard to do at first. You're going to find that takes a lot of core strength. And then we're going to shake it again, taking our fingers into that hip flexor, and you will feel it activating. You'll feel a little bulge there or a little shake. But massaging that psoas muscle right where it comes over the ball and socket joint is going to be a really great way to have some release. We want a strong hip flexor, but we also want a long hip flexor. And a lot of times they're weak and tight. We want the opposite. We want strong and lengthened. So plenty of tips there to do hip circles right. I know they seem very simple, but when you try and implement those tips, opening, pulling in, pushing down, keeping the knees in line with the hips, you'll find that you have 10x'd your hip circle regime. And if you do it both ways on each side, you're going to get much more action in the pelvic floor. You're going to get much more strength in your transverse abdominals, your obliques, and even the great abs in the front, the rectus abdominis. Even if you have a separation, those are safe to do. Have a great day. Please comment and let me know how that was.